Okay, today is class 9 of CAD 212 on February 24th. Today in class, we're going to be creating a site using the following tools: property line, toposurface, and split surface. We're going to talk about how to Poche in Revit and what does that mean. And we're also going to start on creating sheets. Your midterm project is due at the end of class at 12 o'clock on Monday, March 8th. On that day, we'll review for the midterm, and your midterm exam is March 10th, which will start at 9 a.m. So basically, we've got, including today, 3 more days of class and like actually learning new stuff. So at this point for this week, your goal should be to have your model finished. If you don't have your model completely finished, that's okay. But next week, we're going to be moving into creating sheets and what that entails. So just to keep yourself on track, the best thing to do is really just kind of shoot to have, if you're staying on track and you're making sure that all your work is done per day, you shouldn't have any issues. If you're running a little bit behind, you have next week to catch up, and then on the 8th to get everything turned in. So let me know if anybody has any questions. Remember, I said always you can text me if you're having issues, and we can work one-on-one. We can set up a time to do that. So that being said, we'll go ahead and jump into class, and then after the lecture, we'll open the floor up to any questions. All right, so to get started today, we're going to talk about creating a site. So let's jump into Revit. So I'm just going to mock up a little building real quick. I'll just throw an easy roof on. I always like to have an overhang on it. It just looks better. So I just have a little simple little building, just walls and a roof, but that's all we kind of need to give you kind of some kind of guidance as far as how to create the site. So since we are creating a site, you're of course going to want to start in your site level. So in Project Browser, go to site level. The view should look very similar. Notice everything's a little tight here with these elevation markers. In order for me to change the scale with this active, if I go over to my properties and I look at the view scale, I can change this. And if I can just make that a little bit bigger, you notice how these kind of move back a little more and kind of give me a little bit more space. And makes you can change the scale by using this over here. Let's just do a couple of examples. See if we change it this way, how these get larger. I'll just apply scale like that. We can also move these directionally, and we'll talk about that a little bit more when we get into sheets. All right, now that I'm in my site layer, I've given myself a little bit more room to work here. I'm going to go to the Massing and Site tab. And the first thing I'm going to do is the property line. As you know, lots usually come in specific sizes. We can make the property as large as we want, but we want to make sure that we're creating the property to the size of your actual lot. Now you can measure your lot, and if you want to get your property dimensions very accurate, or you can use a specific site size. We can go over that in a second, but let me just do one example, and then we'll go ahead and do another one with a specific size. So if I want to go ahead and use my property line to create a specific size, I'm going to go ahead and click on that. I'm going to get this these two options. We can create by entering distance and bearings. but we don't have that. So we're just going to create by sketching. And it's going to default to my line tool. So if I just kind of click over here and start drawing, you see it's going to come out in feet. Once again, I've got my temporary dimensions up there so I can correct the size of that. I'll just do 68 feet by 50 feet for now. That's just going to square off. So by using my temporary dimensions, I can also set where this offset's going to be. If this is going to be 16 feet, I can make that just 16 feet. I'll bring that in a little bit. We can change that, but we want to keep these dimensions so that they're solid dimensions. So we'll have to change the location of these lines. See, once I change that dimension, this one is off now. So I want to change that back to 50 feet. So the whole idea between me showing you this is that you can use these temporary dimensions to get the exact size of the lot that you want, just how we use the temporary dimensions to create our building sizes. We don't have to lock those temporary dimensions in place. If we wanted to, we can. Remember, in order to lock temporary dimensions in place, you're going to click on this symbol, you're going to click on the dimension itself, and then you're going to lock it. But once we have that done, we no longer need that, and then we can delete that, but it'll still be locked in place. So once we have our property line created, all we're going to do is hit this green check mark. And that's our property line right there. If we jump back into level 1, you'll see that property line is there also. Let's jump back to site in order to create our ground. So we have our site dimension to the size that we need right now. So we're going to go back to Massing and Site tab. And the tool that we use to create the ground itself is found in the Model tab, Massing and Site tab, Model Site panel, and this is the toposurface tool. We'll be using that a lot. So we're going to click on toposurface tool, make it active, and we're just going to click on the points that we created here. And once we get that third point in, you'll see that ground is going to start popping in. I will hit the green check mark. Let me turn on consistent color. And now we have the site. Let's go ahead and jump to 3D. Let's go ahead and turn on the color here. So now we have our basic site. But one of the things that you'll want to notice is when we created that site, we created that site so it goes actually underneath the house. So if we took the roof and hit it, you're going to have this site inside the house. So one of the next things that we need to do is remove this ground from inside the house. And in order to do that, we're going to use split surface. So just as it says here, for split surface, it splits that topo surface into 2 distinct surfaces that can be edited independently. That's the main thing that you want to notice. And one thing I do like about Revit is that it does give you this this information and also a little idea of how to do it down here. So we're going to end up using split surface and subregion. And the main thing to know between the two is that split surface is split into 2 separate and distinct surfaces that can be manipulated in different ways. So what does that mean for this? This means that if we use split surface on this piece of ground right here, we can create a space here, and we can create a space within the house and then delete this ground that's in the house. So let's go through that to see what that looks like. So let's click on split surface. Let's click on the site that we want to split. Then we're just going to draw the shape that we want around the perimeter of the house. And when I hit my green check mark, notice how this has turned blue. This interior part is the only piece that's active. If I click off of that, you notice I have, I can just click on this exterior part and just this is active. And now this interior part is just active now as well. So all I need to do now is hit delete. And now I've deleted that ground from inside the house. A lot of times when we have our flooring and our slab on here, you're going to have that inside the house. This is always something I check to make sure that I can see that you've edited this correctly. We'll go ahead and go through that again. Excuse me. One other step that I want to do on here is go ahead and click on this site, make it active. And if we come over to our properties, and if we look at our material, we can change the material of this site. If we make that active, you want to make this grass. So you can make the grass first using our Manage tab and Materials tool, or you can go ahead and do it while you're inside here. And remember to do that, you're going to go ahead and create a new material. We're going to rename it. Do this grass and initials. We're going to go down to the asset browser. We're going to find our grass. They have a bunch of different options right here. Let's go ahead and use this dark one. Remember, in Graphics tab, you always want to use Render Appearance. Oh, that's kind of dark. I don't like the way that looks. Let me pick another grass. Okay, I like that green better. Okay. And now when I jump out of here, notice I've changed that site to grass now. Let's just take a look at it, what it looks like in realistic. So that'll look interesting when it gets rendered. So those are our steps for creating a site. Let me do that one more time for you, and then we can answer any questions that you may have about that. Let me delete this. I'm just going to delete the site. Let's go back to level 1. I'm going to put flooring on here now so you can see what happens with the floor. Notice I deleted the site, just the site work itself, but my property line is still here. So I can use this same property line, or I can go ahead and just delete that and draw a new one as well. So we'll go ahead and delete that old property line. Say I wanted this new site to be 100 foot by 120 feet. Let's go in there, so site tab, property line, create by sketching. Well, maybe not 120 feet. Let's do 100 by 50, 100 by 60. And then you could also do something like kind of like this. If you wanted to do an arch on the back of the property, you could do something like that. So you can make it look interesting. It doesn't have to be an actual square. You can make it whatever shape you want it to be. 40. So you can create whatever shape that you want. So we'll go ahead and hit the green check mark to finish our property line. Now, let's go ahead and jump into Master Site again. Back to toposurface. Now, something interesting there. When I went to go ahead and hit toposurface to draw my site, it's giving me this error. It says topographic elements are not visible in this view. Now, it told me that because I'm still trying to draw this in level 1. So I can continue to draw it, but I'm not going to be able to see it because sites don't show up in level 1. They just show up in our site plan. So let's see what happens when we do that. So it's just going to click on these spaces and let's just see what happens. and our green check mark. So nothing. In order to see that, we need to jump to site, and then we can jump to 3D. So if you were looking, if you noticed real quickly when I jumped through that, I had this really weird look over here where I've got my curved part that I made, but it's not following that curve. It's just following those 2 points. So I need to go ahead and click on this side again. And now I'm going to go to edit surface. Remember, we can always edit surface. We don't need to draw in new things every time that we do something. We can go ahead and edit a lot of these. So the difficult part is trying to get this curve to show up, because it comes in as a triangulation, as if you noticed. So how do I get this curve to work? Well, I can come back up here to this, to the ribbon, and try this place point tool. So let's do that. And you see when I place these points, along here, it's filling in that arc. There's a few different ways we can learn how to manipulate these sites. And I'll just go ahead and hit the green check mark. And now we have our site finished. So let's go ahead and click on this again. Let's see if my grass is still there. Yes, it is. Double click on that. Let's go for spin in 3D. So there's my slab, there's my roof, and I need to remove this ground from inside the house. So how do I do that when I've got stuff like this that's going on? Well, once again, it's just kind of a matter of playing with it and figuring it out as you go forward. The good part about this piece of geometry, it's actually pretty easy to do. I can go ahead and just go to split surface, click on the site, make it active, and I can just draw around the perimeter right here. And I'll do that. But it doesn't look like anything happened. Well, that's because my slab is still in place. Now let's take a look at a couple of things. Let's take this roof and hide it. Now let's take a look inside here. So that's what happens when your site is inside the house as well. If we had a finished flooring on top of it, it would be even more confusing because you couldn't see that. But basically, remember, these two pieces of material are on the same level. If I click on my slab in properties, notice that is set on level 1 with a height offset of 0. If I click on my site, it's going to be set on 0 as well with no offset. There's different ways that we can offset our sites, but you notice that it's still on level 1. So they're still on the same level. So we need to get rid of that site that's on the inside of this. Now, by doing that, I'm just going to go ahead and flip this over. I just think this is the most efficient way. I'm going to go ahead and grab that slab, hide it. Notice I still have access to this ground now. The split surface did work because I've got 2 independent pieces right here. All I need to do is click on this internal piece, and I can go ahead and just delete that. Then turn this back to the correct direction. Go ahead and turn my stuff back on. And that is it. Any questions about that, y'all? It takes a little practice. It does drive people a little crazy trying to get that to work, but we're going to use this process a couple of different ways, especially when we get to more advanced site stuff. So it's good to just kind of learn the basics here, how to delete that site from inside the house, because we're going to learn how to add elevations to our site in the second half of the semester. But any questions about that at the moment? Okay, just practice that. If you've got questions, just write them down and we can follow up on them on Monday. But it is important. This is something that will be on your midterm. Most of this stuff is, but I like to point out the stuff that, you know, people get tripped up on the midterm as well. So this will be on the midterm. So do practice that. All right, what's next? Okay, we're moving into actually this stuff with about the site today. That's going to be the last new model information that we're going to be doing in class this next week, and going forward, we're going to be talking about strictly how we're going to bring this model together, how we're going to make our drawings look correct, how we're going to make, you know, put our dimensions on here so we actually have a working set of drawings that we can pass off to someone. So the next thing we're going to talk about is Poche in Revit. Well, what does that mean? Let's see. Let's just do a quick search. So if we take a look at this example right here, notice how these lines are filled in, the walls are filled in so they're darkened in between the two external walls. This is what we're referring to when we talk about a poche. It's the act of filling in and darkening the space between the walls so it just looks like a more professional set of plans. Now there's times that you're going to want to leave your plans when they look like this and the walls are hollow. But a lot of times you're going to want to darken that space in so it just looks a lot more finished. So we want to know how to do both options. So when we get to a point where you're actually starting to finish up your plans and put stuff on sheets, let's learn how to do this to create that poche, how to darken that space between those two walls. So here we have our two regular hollow walls. We're just going to select one of the walls, right click, and we're going to go to override graphics in view. The first thing we're going to do is by element, and by element means one at a time. So whichever element I have highlighted, this one, this wall, etc. I'm just doing one at a time. There may be times that you just want to do an individual one. There may be times that you want to do them all at one time. But the first one we're going to do is individually, and that is by element. So override graphics in view, by element. And then we're going to come down to here where it's cut patterns. So we're going to change that to a solid fill. And we're going to change that color to black. And when we do that, notice that fills in that space for you right there. So once again, how do we do that? We're going to go ahead and click on that wall. We're going to right click. The command is override graphics in view. This time we're going to do by category, and this will do all of your walls, all the same category at the same time. So let's click on that. Same thing. Cut patterns. Change that pattern to solid fill. And change that color to black. Yes, you could change it to different colors. If we change it to like a gray, grays are typically used as to distinguish different walls from one another. If you have like different types of walls, you can use like a gray or a black or different shades of gray. So let's just use this gray and see what it looks like. So, okay, and okay. And notice that the other three remaining walls have now turned to that gray color, and we still have this black one over here. So we want to do that for our plans. Once you start putting these guys on sheets and have most of your work done, then you want to go ahead and poche. Don't do this while you're still working on it, but if you're at a point where you've got all your walls done and everything's set, you can go ahead and do the poche. We'll talk about this again next week as we start kind of tweaking how to create our plans and sites and our sheets. So let's just do that one more time. Let me take this wall over here. click on this one, make it active. Go to override graphics and view. Let's do just this one by element. And I'm just going to change the color from black to gray. And now all of them are the same gray. Any questions about that? You don't need to have this completed for your assignment. Well, to check for me to check your progress. Your progress is going to be due on Friday or Saturday. I have like Friday, but if you turn in your progress a little late, it's okay. It's just important to turn it in so I can see how you're coming along with your work. But you don't have to have this one done, but by the following week, it would probably be good. I just kind of give this to you now so you can start kind of just playing with it. Anything on this, guys? Okay. All right, let's move on to the last thing, and that's for today's lecture, that's creating sheets. So once we've got our cool model all finished and stuff like that, we need to know how to actually translate this into a set of working drawings. So in order to do that, we're going to go down to our project browser. And if we scroll down, you'll see that there's a section there for sheets. In order to create a new sheet, we're just going to right click on that and go to new sheet. When we come here, these are the title blocks that are available. The only one that is preloaded is this one right here. So we need to load some additional sheets. So we're going to go into load. You're going to get this library that comes up again. It looks familiar. So on here, we want to scroll down to title blocks. And here we have our additional title blocks available. Now, remember, if you just click on one, you're going to get that preview and see what they look like. Just for this first project, we're going to be using the B11 by 17. So make that one active. Double click on it, open. Once you have that new title block loaded, you don't have to reload it. It will stay in your project, so you can just leave that as is. I'll go ahead and hit OK. And this is what our title block looks like for this one. We have a lot of information here that we need to fill in. If we scroll in on this a little bit closer, owner for the project, just list that. Just do DCC. For project name, I double clicked on that and do this one midterm project. We scroll over here. Next week, we're going to be talking about the sheet number a little bit more. Have a lecture about that. But for now, just kind of know to fill in this part. For project number, it's going to be CAD 212. Issue date is the day that it's due, which is going to be March 8th, 2021. Okay. Author is you. And that checker will be me. And you can just use my initials for that. So this is the basic information that you want to have on here. Fill that in like that, and we'll talk about this in a second. All right, so now we've got our title block. What do we do with it? So first thing we want to do is level 1. So with this sheet open and active, we want to come over to our project browser, click and hold on level 1 and drag and drop this guy into place. It's a couple of different things we have going on here. In my Site plan level 1, in my level 1, I don't want this property line to show up. So I want to jump back to level 1. And remember when we did visibility graphics? Now we're going to go back to visibility graphics, hit my VV button for my shortcut. And I'm going to scroll down to site. And I'm going to hit apply there, and that's going to turn that off. Remember, this is where we kind of semi-permanently turn it on and off instead of temporary, like using our little glasses down here. So let's do that again. The reason I'm doing this is because in my sheets, I don't want this property line to show up in my sheet. So I want to turn it off by going to level 1, opening up my visibility graphics using the shortcut VV or VG. I'm going to scroll down to site because I know that's part of the site package. Click on site, hit apply. That's going to turn that off, and then it's okay. It's still there. I just have it turned off for now. Now let me go back to my sheet. And if I look at that sheet now, well, it looks a little small. Once that site's gone, notice that first floor plan doesn't really fill up that space very well. So I want to make sure that I change that to a larger scale. I'm going to scale up on that. So I'm going to notice how this box, kind of like think of it as a viewport, turns on and off. So right now its viewport is not on. Right now it is on. When this border is up and active, your viewport is on. At this point, I can go over to my properties and I can go to my VScale and I can change that. I want that to be a little bigger, so I'm going to just make, yeah, the whole thing kind of gets larger. You can use your directional arrows on your keyboard to center that a little bit better. I'm just going to leave that here for now because what I'd want to do, I want to come back with some dimensioning after I have this on a sheet, and we'll talk about that next week as well, how to do dimensioning. I just want to get you to the point where you kind of get the basics on how these sheets work. Once you put in a level 1 floor plan, you can't do another level floor plan again. Like if I tried to create another sheet for a level 1 floor plan with this view, it's not going to let me do that. And that's a way just to help you keep your drawing organized. The other thing that we have down here, this is our drawing tag. So it's hanging out all the way down here. We need to put this and have this located within the drawing itself, and we actually want to make it a little bit smaller. So this works in weird ways. So when the inserted drawing is not active, it's not active right now because that border is not up. That's when I can move this, and I'm going to move it to this location. So when it's not active, I can move it. When it is active, when I come in here, click on it, and make that drawing active in my sheet. That border is going to stay visible. And then also notice on that title tag, that drawing tag, that these become active. That's when I can shrink these down to the size that I want it to be. I don't like, depending on the firm you work with, they'll have different ways that they want to have this laid out. For this particular class, we just want to have this shrunk so it's a little bit smaller here. And we always want to have this drawing tag placed under the lower left-hand corner of the drawing itself. And notice when we brought that in, it has the date applied to it and the time that it was done, and it continues to work on that as you work on your sheet. So this will be updated. It does automatically update the scale, and then we want to come in and change this to a level 1. I'll click out of that. And one thing that's nice too is you can go ahead and get started creating your sheets and doing that. And then if you forget to draw something and you go ahead and you come back and you add something to that level 1. And we jump back into our sheet. That addition, any kind of changes that you do make will show up within that sheet. So if there's clients, comes back and say, I don't want this wall here, and you get rid of that wall, you don't have to redo your sheet. You can just come in, delete that wall, go back to your sheet, and that will disappear. So basically what our goals are for this week for this class is to finish up the work that we did on Monday, to add your site to this. What I would do is, depending on the size of your house, I mean, if you can measure and get your size of your lot accurate. If you don't, use maybe like 100-foot by 60-foot site, 100-foot long and 100-foot deep and 60-foot wide. And then start playing with the sheets, start creating different sheets and stuff. And we're going to talk about those two things a little bit more next week, but I wanted to give you a head start on that information so you can start, working with that now. But definitely work, your goal for this week is to try and get your model complete. You may have a few different things you need to tweak next week, but if you can have the model complete this week, next week you're going to just come in and it's just going to be organizing your model and your sheets, to get everything finished for the midterm project. And next week we'll also talk about different sheet types and go into that information a little bit more, dimensions and things like that. So that's it for today. Any questions about today's lecture? And then if no questions about today's lecture, anybody have any, need any help with anything else? Okay, well, if there's no questions, no problem. Oh, yes, go ahead.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Mine's not about today's, it's just kind of some incidental things that I've had questions about while working in Revit.
Sure.
Is there a way to deselect things, like when you're modifying something, or I noticed it whenever I was making my soffits, maybe like I clicked on something that I didn't want to click on and didn't notice it right away. So like it wasn't convenient to just press the back button to unhighlight it. And I want to go back and deselect it without having to undo all of the other things I had selected. Is there a way to do that?
Let's see if I understand. So if you were creating your soffit, well, let's do this, and maybe this will answer your question. If I selected all of this right here, and I didn't mean to select all of this, is that what you mean?
It's more like, so whenever you're highlighting, like where it turns pink or like that little magenta color.
Oh yeah, when you're editing, yes.
Yeah, and so like if I selected a wall or something to create my soffit on it, but I'm like, oh wait, no, that's the wrong wall. I don't want to do it there. Okay. But I had already selected other things like subsequently after selecting the thing that I didn't want.
Can I the one? Okay.
Do like in some programs would be like a control click to like not.
Yeah, I got you. I think I got you. Actually, while I got this up, let me show you another little trick on here. Notice I have a whole bunch of stuff selected on here. If you select a whole bunch of stuff at one time, there's two different things that we can look at. Notice in the ribbon that this filter comes up, and also down here, there's the filter symbol, and it says 7 things are selected also. So if we click on this filter, notice it's going to give us different things. So all I meant to do is click on my topography. So I can unclick these guys right here and hit OK. And now just my topography is selected. So you can use that filter tool. We haven't talked about that yet. So if you do select everything and you do filter, say I just wanted to do the roof, or I just wanted the roof and walls, then I can turn these guys inactive. And now I just have my roof and walls selected. So that is the filter tool. It's kind of similar to what you're asking, but not specifically, but it is another way to kind of filter out things that you didn't mean to select just by using this filter here. Hopefully that helps.
Yeah,
Let me see if I
that's
can
a good
figure.
tip.
Okay, good. Let me see if I can figure out and actually address your question now. Okay, so if we're doing our soffit, you said. And we're drawing our boundary lines. All right, go away. Here we go. Say if I'm drawing my boundary lines. And I do this one by mistake. Now, since it's the last one I did, I can just undo. But if it was this one that I made a mistake on, I can just come back to this one. And I can change the spacing of it by using my temporary dimensions. I can drag this one to the space I need it to be. If I don't want this one selected at all, then I can just keep it active and hit delete, and that one will go away. Is that what you were having a problem with?
What if it was like if you were doing the pick walls, if you like press delete, would it delete the wall?
Oh no, if we did pick walls, let's do that. So if I click on that wall and I click on that wall, it's not going to delete the wall itself. When we click back on that piece and make it active, that's just going to delete the boundary line that you're creating. So the wall is still going to be there. If I go back to click picked walls, see my wall is still there. It's just deleting that boundary line that you're creating. So you
Okay, good, because I did do that and I was like, oh shit, did that just delete my wall? And I didn't want to like mess with it enough to like actually have deleted the wall and not know how to go back and fix it. So I just would undo it every time. But I was wondering if that would be like the appropriate way to do it.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, this is strictly just doing your boundary lines. It's picking the wall itself, but it doesn't actually interact with the wall, so to make the wall active. So you can delete these individual lines, and it doesn't matter which order you delete them in, as long as you go ahead and make sure everything is a closed space. Like if I left it like this, if I just, well, actually I'll use the pick wall. I'll go ahead and just do that pick wall. And if I went to go ahead and just close it like this and hit my green check mark, it's going to give me this error because I did not close this geometry right here. I've got this opening right here. So I can go ahead and just hit continue. I can use my corner tool and I can close it like that. And then once I close that geometry, it's going to finish. If I still wanted to continue editing that, I can go back and do edit boundary, and then I can delete this and just, So yeah, you can totally move these different boundary lines independently of the drawing, because you're editing it at the moment. And once you hit that green check mark, then it's going to make things, go live.
Okay, good. Yeah, I figured there was probably like a simple way to do it. I just wasn't sure of how.
Oh yeah, no worries. Yeah, Revit's always like that. There's always something weird, and you think it's going to be harder, and then you're like, oh man, that was easy. Or you're trying to do something, and it's like all you had to do is click one thing, and you forgot that one thing, but it messed everything up. So yeah, it's why it's good to keep repetition, and taking notes on some of this stuff is always good too. But yeah, you can totally edit these independently.
I actually had another little question too.
Sure.
Is there another way to navigate in 3D besides using the little cube? Because I was finding it just really clunky, and I couldn't get it to like rotate the right way. Like it was like it was not rotating just around one point, but like my whole extent of the drawing. I don't know if maybe I zoomed in too much, but it was just like it was going all over the place, and I had to keep zooming out and in. It was just really irritating. I didn't know if there was like a keyboard and mouse click combination that you can use to do like a orbit type thing without having to click on the cube.
No, without having to click on the cube.
maybe I just need
There-
practice.
Yeah, I think you just probably need to practice. There is a way.
You can
I'm trying
press
to
down on
remember.
the mouse wheel. You can press down on the mouse wheel, and that works as the same way as
Wait,
clicking
really?
on
I
the
kept doing that and it wouldn't, because that's
You
what
have
I
to be
thought
in
it would
3D
do.
mode.
In 3D. Okay, I'll have to.
Yeah, I'm
go
excuse me, you
back
have to
and
press
play with it.
shift. You have to press shift and use the mouse.
Oh, shift in the mouse wheel?
Yeah.
Okay, that might actually work better for me. Thank you.
There
Yeah,
is
it's
a
the
way
same
that
in
you
other
can.
CAD programs.
There's a way, and I'm trying to remember it, and maybe I think that was Ian. If you click on, and I'll look it up for you. I don't use it very often, but forget about it. If you click and you hold, anyway, there's a way that you can circulate around one thing, and that might make it easier. Let me look into that a little bit more and get you some more information. I'm trying that shift mouse thing too. Yeah, and the wheel at that. I'll look into some other stuff. I'm just so used to just kind of flipping around here. It is just kind of easy. Like it does take a little practice just to kind of reorient yourself with it. But there's a couple of little shortcuts. I'll brush up on that. We can talk about that next week as well.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I probably just need practice or something, but I don't know. It's flying all over the place. I'm really frustrated.
Let me look into that, and yeah, I'll come up with some other stuff. And if anybody else has any ideas on that, please feel free, to jump in. Yeah, any other questions, y'all? Okay, if there's no other questions, I'll go ahead and end class for today. And like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to text me and I'll be happy to work with you one-on-one. And I'll just see you all next Monday. So have a great weekend. Bye, y'all.
You
I
too.
actually
yes.
have a quick
Yeah,
question, but I'll just
yeah.
wait till the rest of class leaves.
Okay, sure, no problem. Let me go ahead and stop the recording.